It's me. Leave a message at the beep.
Hey, man. Class is already at the intermission. Not sure where you're at. I thought you were going to be here. We're doing the improv thing. As you know, today we're, the class. Today we're learning how to stretch a joke. We're 3 dozen podcasts in and I'm still doing this. So anyway, hope you make it before the class starts up. I don't know where you're at, but text me or something. Send me another dick pic. Bye.
Welcome back, you guys. It is Monday, March 7th, or, thereabouts. It is time. We are back. We are back in business. Not all the way, but we're getting there. And that means it's time for an update on the burglary. Oh, wow. For those of you just tuning in, who haven't checked in the last couple weeks, yes, my office was robbed. Window was perhaps not closed all the way. They waltzed in. They made off with, 3 bags. Just 3 bags. It was my camera bag, my gear bag, and my laptop bag, which had a tablet in it. Great. Wonderful. And some miscellaneous shit laying on the desk, including my memory cards. It was a pretty catastrophic loss. But what was really lost was the peace of mind. So the insurance company went through it all. They, I had receipts for everything. Thank you to, Amazon for keeping copies of all that, proof that I actually owned all the stuff. And the insurance even asked for photos of my stuff, which, because I'm a weirdo, I happened to have. So I provided those, and it's taken care of, checks in the mail. Getting back about 60% of my value, which isn't perfect, but it's enough to get me back in business. And that means, you guys, next week, the podcast is going to be back up to great standards. I mean, just fantastic. I mean, the video aspect, for those of you watching, is going to be off the charts. It's going to be great. And for those of you wondering how the podcast is doing, I'm a little discouraged with my success levels. I won't kid you. I mean, I'll kid you. I'll kid you all day. That's what I do. But I won't kid you. I won't lie to you. I mean, I will lie to you when it comes to joke of the week and true facts. Those are, those segments are just meant for lying. But no, it's going all right. I've had, between the YouTube and the iTunes and all that, I've had about 9,000 views / downloads / streams so far. So that's pretty good. It's pretty good. But I can do better, and I will do better, and I will do that by upping the quality starting right next week. So we'll work on that. We'll come back to that. So what's fun is, the police officer warned me. He said, so now that you've had the break-in and all your shit stolen, they're going to know that this is a very rich well, that there is ample here to take from. They will be back. So I immediately went out and bought cameras. I bought a sign for the door that says, "Motherfucker, you're on camera." Nice, huge ass sign. You can't miss it. And, secured the windows, secured the doors, upgraded everything in terms of security. And then, of course, when I'm not in the office, what I do is I leave unedited clips of the podcast playing. So what you hear is just clips of me talking, not even like a finished podcast, just me talking. It's got all the mistakes in it, all of it. And from outside, at the right volume, it actually sounds like someone is in here talking as I am right now. And so, since the windows are all now blacked out, and you can't tell if I'm in here or not. Last night was the first night I did not have it playing, and they came back. They tried to pry my door open. they broke one of my cameras. And when the police came out, he said, oh, well, looking at the way they're angled, I suspect they probably just jumped over your fence there at the corner, snuck up along the fence line out of sight of the cameras, came underneath this camera, and then we looked up at it, and yeah, it was pointed at a funky angle. They pointed it so it wouldn't catch the back of their head, came around the corner, bashed in that camera, and then tried to pry the door open. And the door's all fucked up and mangled, but they didn't get through it. They did not get through the door. And it's going to get even harder to get through because I've got a new fancy electronic deadbolt coming Monday. So that was great. And he said, so I got to ask, can I see the footage of what you did get? And I said, yeah. It's not actually hooked up yet. Right now, the cameras are just props. He said, that's fine because you can see the cameras from the street. There's no way we would have seen his face. So now the plan is there are going to be, when it's finished, which should be Monday, there will be two additional cameras in places where you will not see them, in places where your guard will be down. And yeah, we'll get a clear shot of you. You dirty junkies. And what I hope is that that the next time they do try to break in, that I'm not in here, because I've got a little surprise in store if they try that. I'm not gonna say it's an axe. I'm not gonna say it's a bat with nails in it. I'm just going to say whatever it is that I have in store as a surprise, if the junkies get through my door with me in here, I'm just going to say it's self-defense. Let's just call it what it is. It's self-defense. So yeah, isn't that exciting? So much fun. You know what? Do we have a sponsor this week? Yeah, we do. Let's say this week's sponsor, this week's podcast. This week's podcast is brought to you by insurance. Yes, insurance. It's what makes you whole. And by whole, I mean there's a hole in your coverage. Whether it's your deductible or whatever, there is a hole in your coverage. But it does make you whole. It makes things better. I'd be out of business without it. Insurance. It's what's for dinner. Let's get started. Technology. If you commute a lot or plan on taking a road trip, there's something you can do to get a little more mileage out of your gas, and that is hypermile. Hypermiling is when you employ a few simple strategies to get maximum efficiency, to really squeeze the last little bit of efficiency out of your car. Now, one way to do it is to avoid stop-and-go traffic. If you're in stop-and-go traffic, just try to roll as much as you can. Leave a bigger gap so you can just roll through traffic. Don't stomp on the gas. Don't stomp on the brake. Just roll. No matter what you do, just roll. But another thing you can do to hypermile is you can turn off the air conditioning. Yeah, it turns out the air conditioning can drain quite a bit of power. I had a subcompact rental once when I was working downtown, and you literally could not drive up the hills in Seattle with the air conditioning on. You had to turn it off if you wanted to drive up a hill. What a piece of crap. Who the hell would buy something like that? Oh, anyway. And it's not even like it got that good of mileage. Give me a break. No, the other thing though is, when you're on the freeway, if you're up to speed, it's actually more efficient to leave the air conditioning on than to roll the window down. May seem counterintuitive, but it's not. It's not, because the aerodynamic drag is greater than the amount of energy pulled by the compressor on the air conditioning. Now, I had a girlfriend a long time ago who was a big fan of hypermiling. And not just a fan, but like an OCD level devotee. And it was really too much. It was too much. One day we're driving in heavy traffic, and even though we're barely moving, She won't let me roll the window down, and she won't turn on the air conditioning. And I'm like, look, neither one of us makes that much money. I'll give you the extra 8 cents you're going to save over the course of our journey, but I'm roasting alive. We are inside of a sealed car on a sunny, hot-ass day. What is wrong with you? So remember, while you can hypermile, and perhaps we all should, doing so to the tremendous discomfort of everyone else in the car is maybe taking it a little too far. We appreciate the effort. But when you're on a crusade, don't take passengers, I guess, is the message. So here's a life pro tip for you, and this is not one that I read somewhere, unlike many of the tips and even jokes that I share. No, this is one that I came up with on my own. It's how to fix a plugged toilet without plunging it. Plunging. If you have a stop toilet, it's not generally good. It's usually a disgusting mess, and it's only getting worse with time. We have the luxury of having 3 toilets in the house. So when one toilet is stopped, we don't have to keep piling onto it until it's fixed, making it more and more indoor outhousey. No, we can diversify. We can broaden our horizons. Essentially, it's great. We can do that. No, what I do is, as long as the water level is still going down. Now, if it's stopped, if it's all the way full to the top and it just won't go down at all whatsoever, even if you wait 8 hours, it won't go down, you're boned. You got to fix it. You got to plunge it. You got to get elbow deep in mess. It's not pretty. No fixing that other than plunging or snaking. But if the water level will go down, there's another solution, and it's what you must do. And that is go in and flush it again. Now, I know what you're saying. He's just going to gargle it all back up. The whole thing's going to fill with water again and then slowly go back down. That's right. That's right. That's the right solution. That's what you want it to do. Because every time you do that, you're getting it a little bit cleaner. Because you fill it with, let's say, 100% disgusting slurry of waste. Poo slurry. You got the poo slurry mix, and as it drains down, some of the disgusting mess passes. You flush again, it fills up again. Now it's 100% again, but now it's only 95% disgusting, 90% disgusting. Goes down again. Flush it again. Now you're at like 70-80% disgusting. That's still really disgusting, but it's 30% better than where you started, and you just repeat the process over and over. And it gets to the point where either it clears. Now, the most times I've ever had to do this is about 6 or 7. But normally it's within 3 or 4 complete fill cycles that it fills up, slowly goes down, and when the water level is high, that's when you've got the most pressure on it. That's when you're most likely to clear it. But it keeps going down, and if that doesn't clear it, if it just keeps adding water and then clearing a bit, adding water and clearing a bit, eventually the water will be clean, clear, not disgusting to plunge. We were staying in a hotel once in West Yellowstone, Montana. We were guests of the Chamber of Commerce. We were out there for a Christmas thing. The room was provided to us at no charge. Beautiful room in the Three Bear Suite at, I think it's called the Three Bear Lodge or something like that. Wonderful place. Wonderful place. Biggest locally owned hotel in town, and great people. And we plugged up the toilet. And I was like, you know what? I feel bad. This time of year, it's a skeleton crew. The lady at the desk is going to be the one to have to come up and clean it. And I'm just not comfortable giving her that kind of mess. So keep flushing. Guys, keep flushing. Tina was opposed. The boys were too young at the time to do anything about it. I said, nope, just keep doing it. Just keep doing it. At least until it's clean. When it's clean, we can have her come clear it. And sure enough, 6-7 flushes later, boom, it's gone. It's cleared. It cleared itself as if by magic. No, it just eroded. It eroded the log jam, if you will. And I know you will because you have, and you will again. So that's my life pro tip. No more plunging. Plunging is for when the toilet will not drain an ounce. When you have to go in and bail it out a bit before you can even get a plunger in there. That, my friends, that is when you plunge. But not before. Not before.
Political analysis. Politics.
So as usual in the political arena, Trump's been getting a lot of attention. We just had Super Saturday, and in it, Trump underperformed expectations. Cruz overperformed expectations, and Rubio did absolutely terrible. In other words, he met his expectations. Thing is, Trump is leading the Republican side, but he is not winning a majority, like almost anywhere. In fact, when you look at exit polls, they ask people, if Trump was your nominee, would you be satisfied? And the overwhelming answer is no. So, can he be stopped? Yes, there are two paths. I've only heard one of them talked about, but I'm going to cover both. The obvious one is a brokered convention. If you can just deny Trump of enough delegates that it has to go to the convention where they negotiate who the nominee will be, Trump could be pushed out that way. If they do that, it'll be an absolute disaster. It'll cause real harm to the party and to the credibility of the party, which is already in serious danger. I don't think they're going to go that route. But there is another way. Oh, yes. In 1980, for the Republican nomination, Reagan was in second and Bush Classic was in third. They wanted to be in first, but they knew neither one of them could do it. So they joined forces. Bush Classic dropped out and became the running mate to President Ronald Reagan, to who would become Ronald. You get the idea. So what happened was Bush Classic dropped out of the race, became running mate to Reagan, and all of his delegates went to Reagan. So that means second and third candidates combined forces became number one, and they won the nomination and the party. If Trump and Rubio were to join forces, obviously, if Cruz and Rubio were to join forces, obviously it would have to be Cruz at the top of the ticket because he's got more delegates. But there's a chance that Rubio plus Cruz could get the nomination, certainly beat out Trump in Florida if they were combined. And then they would have an actual path to, beat Trump to be the nominee. Now, I don't care who becomes the nominee on the Republican side. I think they're all about equally terrible. And they all have their own poison pill they bring with them. So that's fine. But I think that's the big story that we're overlooking, is the possibility of a Cruz-Rubio coalition to stop the Trumpster. And by the way, I said this last week, I'll say it again. Trump supporters, your biggest drawback is that you guys are just insufferable. You gotta be nice. You gotta be nice. I know your hero is brash and outspoken, but, it's one thing that he quotes Mussolini. It's another that he defends it saying, he's got some good ideas. Come on, that's... Either Trump is dumb or he thinks you are. In either case, I'm not sure that's a route you want to go. All right. So here's one that doesn't exactly fit in with any of my segment titles, but this is something I realized myself. This is what you might call a shower thought, or a moment of sudden clarence. Anyway, it's not something I read. Again, this is something I came up with on my own. I just realized, medieval armor, medieval weaponry, medieval armory. I believe with absolute confidence that there is more of that in existence today than there was in medieval times. And part of that's because an awful lot of the stuff from that era survives to today. And you can't tell me that LARPers don't have more gear sitting on shelves than the actual soldiers did back then. I mean, it's so many. It's so many, and they're collectors. There are people who have 100 swords. You could say, well, the modern swords, those are decoration. They would never survive in a battle. Right, but the old ones were forged in a dude's hut with very primitive smeltery and blacksmithery. I believe, I don't know for sure, but I believe 2 or 3 modern junk costume swords would still be very effective against one actual broadsword. Now, broadsword's a bad example because those are very heavy and very big, but I'm still thinking, if somebody owns a modern-made broadsword, even if it's, not weapons grade, but just costume grade, I still think it's going to be a very effective tool compared to, the metallurgy of the 1300s or 1400s. I honestly believe there is more medieval weaponry around today than ever before in history. I have no facts to back that up. I have no citations. I do have access to this research database that allows me to look up. It's called Google, and it's available to me, but I don't wish to use it because I don't care. So there were some fun activities I did as a kid with my parents that I don't do with my kids. And I recently paused and thought about it and asked myself why, and the answer came quickly. But first, the thing is, what are those activities? Well, when I'd go visit my dad on weekends, we'd do stuff like we'd buy a kite, and then we'd go and fly it, or, try to. And, invariably, I wasn't very good at flying kites. I think part of it was because we were flying them down by the water near bluffs where the wind is not terribly forgiving. Maybe the kites were too, simple or cheap. I don't know. I just was not good at flying kites. I just wasn't. But we would do other things. We would go camping. And, camping is, it's a real family experience in that it sucks. It's not my thing. It was a great idea. It's something to do to get out of the house, but my gosh, is it boring? And is it cold? And is it a lot of work? Because we wouldn't camp necessarily in campgrounds. I mean, once in a while, no, we'd go hiking. And, I was the littlest of a bunch of little kids. And it was, you'd have to carry in your own pack. And it was just a horrible experience. And, the parents are like, oh, no, this is easy. Right. Well, you're adult-sized. Carrying a tent that's the same size as what I'm carrying. It's not... Anyway. And we'd also go fishing. And fishing was a great experience because I could go fishing with my dad, and I'd catch, about half of what you'd catch would be too small. The other half would be just barely big enough, and then you'd cook it up and eat it. It was great. And then, because, your stepdad wants to compete with your real dad, then he would take you fishing, and maybe he'd let you use his pole, which is way nicer, but doesn't actually help you catch fish better. I mean, a wonderful fisherman can catch a fish with even the most terrible pole, and the inverse is also true. So I don't do any of these things with my kids. I tried fishing with them once. It was an exercise in futility. They were too young. I explained, you're going to cast off. You're going to, have your hook in the water. We could be here an hour. We could be here 6 hours. In that whole time, we might never get a bite. And after I explained this, we cast off. And as it hits the water, he says, "Was that a bite? Do we have a fish?" Holy smokes, my son. Brendan, we do. I would swear I literally, like 5 seconds ago, finished the speech about how we're not going to catch anything. Certainly not right away. Probably not ever, but okay, fine. So I gave the boys the fishing pole. I walked around the other side of this little stocked lake, and I was like, guys, I'm going to walk around and I'm going to get a picture of you two fishing. Well, this was a stocked pond, and the dog that lived on the property at this Flathead Lake Lodge in Montana, the dog, he had different ideas. He did not think it was a catch and release pond. He thought it was a catch and I'll eat it for you. And you got to be quick, otherwise you're going to end up with a fish hook and a dog. But luckily it just never came to that. So I walk around this lake. We'll call it a lake. It was a small pond, maybe 30 feet across. I walk around to the other side of it, and just as I take my picture, I see Dom is handing his fishing pole to the dog. And I come back around and I say, Dom, did you just try and give your fishing pole to the dog? And he goes, yeah, but him have no thumbs. Okay, oh my gosh. In the time it takes me to walk around a 30-foot pond, you got so bored with fishing, you decided to hand your pole to a dog. But he's not wrong. Fishing is so boring. For kids, at least. For an adult, it's different. It's a way to be bored. It's a way to intentionally be bored. So things like kiting and fishing and camping, I don't do those with my kids. Not that I haven't tried, but that once I did, I realized, even as a kid, these weren't my thing. They weren't my jam, baby. I don't know. We go to museums. We go mini golfing. We go to movies. We do interactive things. And I understand life is, contrary to what you may have heard, cheaper today than ever before. The $2 theater we go to now is, adjusted for inflation, much cheaper than the movies I went to as a kid, even the dollar movies I went to as a kid. So no, this is, traditions change. And maybe we don't get the same kind of bonding time that comes with hours or days of unending boredom. But at the same time, we don't get hours and days of unending boredom. Some traditions, man, they were just not meant to go down through generations, I guess.
Hot streams for your face. Hot streams for your face.
So here's a hot stream for you. I may have mentioned this one before, I don't remember, but it's part of a second joke, so stick around for that. Some of you don't like the video recommendations, and that's fine. You don't have to, but you gotta enjoy the ride, my friends. The ride is half the journey. No, it is the journey anyway. It's a show called Drunk History. Derek Waters, this very clever comedian, came up with the concept and has actually even sold the format to England, where the BBC has their own version of Drunk History, which is a pale shadow in that I don't recognize any of the storytellers or the reenactors. So what they do is they get comedians blind drunk and then have them recount true stories from history, and then they have actors go back and reenact the story as they're telling it. And they leave in all kinds of goofy stuff. The parts where they lose their train of thought, the parts where, they're barfing and all that. It's great. It's really great. But what I recommend more than Drunk History is a show that doesn't exist yet. And guys, you can go out and make this. This is going to be better than Drunk History. It's a similar format, so bear with me because this might get complicated. High conspiracy theories. It's wonderful. You get somebody really high on, whatever. If you want to make the show in international waters, you can make it with some pretty fancy stuff. Or you can just shoot it in a state where recreational pot is legal. There's got to be, 4 of those now? Colorado, Washington, Alaska, the city of DC, technically, but not really. Isn't there another one? I thought there was another one. It's great. And then you have them explain to you their wildest conspiracy theories. And it would just be awesome. So there you go. My hot stream for the week, Drunk History. But my great idea for a show, high conspiracy theories. It's just got legs, man. Okay, so I'm going to cut this week off a bit early. I have a lot in the works. I've got my long list, an ever-growing list of topics to cover, and the problem is I've got a backlog of ones that require, research and graphics and frankly, video, which I don't have until next week. So next week's show, my friends, you've got to come back. It's going to be good. I've got a whole new batch of backing music coming from Greg the Hero. I'm taking this seriously. I got to double down. We got to make this happen. Go for broke, I say. And broke, my friends, as you know, that's something I'm good at. That's my area of expertise. You don't come into my house and tell me how to broke. Because broke, my friends, broke I'm good at. So I'm going to, let it go there. And I've got some great stuff coming up. I've got a helpful book for parents coming up. I've got some really interesting political analysis. Let me look at my notes. What else have I got? Who knows? I've got an interview with a very clever bot who wastes the time of telemarketers. It's wonderful. He's a hell of a guy, and I'm going to call him up and have a nice one-on-one. And so there's just so much to cover, but I can't cover any more of it effectively this week. So with that said, you know what time it is. There it is. That's the music, and you know what that music means. That means there's only a couple things left. One is for me to say goodbye. Say goodbye for the week, say see you soon, and the other is to give you my closing thought of the week, which I will do. You got to hang into the end for that. Very few of you do, and those of you who do know how wonderful it is. Oh man, it's great. So let's run through the logistics. This is the Brian K. White Glossy News 4K podcast, lifestyle entertainment, news, update, bullshit, whatever. It's the podcast. It's the Glossy News 4K podcast. Let's call it that. And what else? Segment bumpers by Greg the Hero. Most of the backing music you heard today, Greg the Hero. There's probably 2 songs, the intro and the outro, by Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com. He's a good guy too, but I don't actually know him. He just seems like a nice guy. I mean, he makes his stuff available. Yeah, that counts for something. You know what you should do? You should follow me around the web, and the best way to do that, to catch up with me on Facebook and Twitter and Reddit and iTunes and Libsyn and YouTube and all those good places, is to go to glossynews.com/podcast. glossynews.com/podcast is where you'll find all of them's links. You'll find them. They're there. I assure you. That is one promise I can make to you this week, is that you'll find those links. Tell a friend. Share with me in the comments. Give me some feedback. Subscribe. I don't know. What do you people do all day? I don't know. I don't know. And frankly, I don't want to know because it disturbs me just to think about it. So closing thought, as you know, I always have a closing thought. If you're out sick for a couple days, your first day back, just to make sure, just to really sell it, just to convince your boss that you really were sick, your first day back, don't wear makeup. Don't wear makeup. Your first day back, they'll go, wow, you do look like hell. Now, this obviously applies more for women than for men, unless you're a man who wears makeup, in which case, then yeah, don't wear makeup. But if you're a man, I don't know, come back wearing makeup. I mean, they'll have different questions, but they'll be less likely to ask them. They'll keep it to themselves. And they'll say, you know what? Just, hey man, if you need a couple days to do you do you. You get your shit sorted out on your own time. Don't worry about us. We got it covered. So there you go. So guys, I will talk to you next Sunday or Monday. Monday for the regulars, Sunday for the subscribers. Get in line, baby. This is a good time. We're going to do it. I'll talk to you soon.